I got it.
Yeah.
Fine.
When do you leave for your trip?
Thursday afternoon. Be back Sunday.
Oh, that'll be nice.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Carol. I'm on the phone just in case I can't get in by Zoom, but it looks like I'm on by Zoom.
I'll text her.
Okay. All right, David, are we on? Yes, sir. Okay, good evening, everybody. Before we get started tonight, I would like to ask Sarah Ladart to lead us in our invocation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. If you would please pray with me. Dear Lord, may we begin by asking for you to grant peace to the loved ones of the nearly 3,110 Georgians that have lost their lives to COVID-19. We also want to thank you for the work you accomplished through the life of Representative John Lewis. Help us engage in good trouble. Tonight we are gathered to serve our community, to use our resources wisely, to represent all members of our community, and to make decisions that promote the common good. We pray for our mayor and council, for the various levels of city officials, and for the agenda set before them this evening. We ask that you would graciously grant them confidence in their knowledge of what is good and fitting for those who choose to make Milton their home. It is in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Milton City Council for Monday, July 20th, 2020 to order. The city strongly recommends that you review tonight's agenda carefully, and if you wish to speak on any item on the agenda, please bring your comment card to the clerk as soon as possible. While the Milton rules allow a speaker to turn in their comment card up until the clerk calls the agenda item. Once the agenda item is called, no more comment cards will be accepted. If the clerk can please call roll and make general announcements.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I will be happy to call roll for the July 20th, 2020 regular meeting. I would like to remind those in attendance to please silence all cell phones at this time. Those attending the meeting who would like to make a public comment, you are required to complete a public comment card prior to speaking on the item. Your comment card must be presented to the city clerk prior to the agenda item being called. All speakers, please identify yourself by name, address, and organization before beginning your comment. If you are representing an organization, an affidavit is required stating you have the authority to speak on behalf of the organization. Please review tonight's agenda, and if you would like to make a comment, please bring your comment card to me now. Demonstration of any sort within the chambers is prohibited. Please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, outburst, or dialogue with any person speaking. Anyone in violation will be asked to leave. As I call roll this evening, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Joe Lockwood.
Here.
Councilmember Paul Moore.
Here.
Councilmember Laura Bentley.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Longoria.
Here.
Councilmember Carol Crookley and Councilmember Rick Morg are joining us. Thank you, Carol. And Rick Morg?
He's trying to join in, but he will be joining in.
Okay. And for the record, Councilmember Peyton Jamison and Councilmember Peyton Jamison is absent. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, welcome to City Hall tonight, and we appreciate you being here in attendance to our meeting. Tammy, I want to ask if you will sound the next item.
The next item is the approval of the meeting agenda item number 2187.
Okay, I would like to, if it's okay with council, to move the agenda item number 20, or number 20-190, the approval of the contract between the City of Milton and Crofton Associates for the architectural design for the Fire Station 42 from this consent agenda to, from the consent agenda to new business. I'd also like to add an executive session to discuss possible litigation. Any other changes? If not, I'll ask for a motion on the agenda.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, very quickly, just for the record, as we're beginning to take your vote on that, just to advise that with respect to the retirement agreement that is in your, on the consent agenda, I have provided updated copies of the most current version of that for the record. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that's all.
Okay, just to clarify, you've given the copies of the current one to the council members that are in.
That's correct,
here
and the
tonight.
clerk, yes.
Correct. Okay, have a motion for approval as amended by Councilmember Bentley, and I believe Councilmember Moore was close, but Councilmember Moore was second. So, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Councilmember Cookerly, are you there?
I said aye.
Okay.
I am.
And is Councilmember Moore gone yet?
Yes.
And I think he's trying to speak.
Okay.
I can't tell. He's
All right.
underneath
Well,
his microphone.
that's unanimous for all those that voted with. Obviously, Councilmember Jameson's not here, and we'll have to confirm with Councilmember Moore. All right. Do we have any general public comment tonight?
We do, Mayor.
Okay. Then our next item is public comment, general public comment. Public comment is a time for citizens to share information with the mayor and city council and to provide input and opinions on any matter that is not scheduled for its own public hearing during today's meeting. Each citizen who chooses to participate in public comment must complete a comment card and submit it to the city clerk prior to the agenda item being called. Please remember this is not a time to engage the mayor or members of city council in conversation. When your name is called, please come forward and speak into the microphone stating your name and address for the record. You'll have 5 minutes for remarks. The city encourages you right now to review the agenda, and if you wish to speak, bring your comment cards to the clerk. Okay, if we can move on to the...
I'm sorry, Mr. Bill
Oh, I'm
Madden.
sorry. We
Mr.
did
Bill
that.
Madden.
Bill Madden, 790 Quarter Path Lane. So my wife and I watched the working session last week on the former Milton Country Club. It was of particular interest to us because our property neighbors the park. During the working session, the section of trail that comes very close to our house was called Trail Section Number 5. I would like to provide the council with some background information on this section of trail. The concept plan for the park was approved by the council during the August 29, 2019 meeting. As neighboring homeowners, we participated actively in the public input sessions and community surveys during the development phase of the plan. The approved concept plan was called for trail section number 5 to run alongside and within an existing tree line. A portion of this section of trail would also be constructed a boardwalk because it crossed areas of wetland. Personally, we were quite happy with this trail plan because the topography of the land and the existing tree line provided a natural buffer to our property. We also thought this plan would provide a nice shaded walking path which highlighted the natural beauty of the land to the public. During the City Council meeting of May 18th, 2020, an engineering plan for the trail was presented which shows a significant change of plan for the trail section number 5. The boardwalk was entirely eliminated and the trail path was redirected away from the tree line to use a large portion of the existing golf cart path. The path of the trail now comes very close to our property. We believe it likely comes within 25 feet of our property line, although we're not 100% sure based on the quality of the maps that are available to us. Additionally, the topography of the land no longer provides us with a natural buffer. The trail is now at the same elevation as our backyard. We have many windows on the backside of our house, and you can see directly into our house from the path of the proposed trail. We have both safety and privacy concerns with this path. Immediately after this proposal on May 18th, I sent the council an email about our concerns with the new plan. I also later learned that several of my neighbors also reached out to City Council with similar concerns. And as a result of this outreach, myself, along with neighbors from Quarter Path Lane, met with Public Works Director Robert Drury and City Engineer Sarah Leers on May 26 at the property. We had a very positive meeting where they listened to our concerns and discussed several possible solutions. These proposals were presented to the council during last week's working session. Unfortunately, I do not believe that you're provided with all the background that I've just provided to you today. In the last week, I've had the opportunity to speak with many of you. Several of you have even taken the opportunity to come out and walk the property to get better acquainted. And I really appreciate those that did. I'm asking for you to please reconsider the alternative options for trail section number 5 before going out to bid on this project. I really feel like there's a win-win solution that meets the overall budget, provides good value for the taxpayers, and is still sensitive to our concerns and those of our neighbors on Quarter Path Lane. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more general public comment, Tammy?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Then we'll move on to the next item, consent agenda.
Sure. The first item on the consent agenda is approval of the June 1st, 2020 regular city council meeting minutes. Agenda item number 2188. Second is the approval of the June 8th, 2020 special called city council meeting minutes. Agenda item number 2189. Next, we have the approval of a professional services agreement between the City of Milton and Ross Plus Associates to amend the impact fee ordinance and complete the capital improvements element 2020 annual update. Agenda item number 2191. Next is the approval of a retirement agreement for Jim Craig. Agenda item number 2192. Next, we have the approval of a construction services agreement between the City of Milton and Complete Demolition Services, LLC, at the former Milton Country Club active area. Agenda item number 2193. Our sixth item is the approval of an easement agreement for drainage areas on 14875 Thompson Road. Agenda item number 2194. Our next item is the approval of a task order between the City of Milton and BM&K PC for Cogburn Road sidewalk construction inspection. Agenda item number 2195. Our next item is the approval of a professional services agreement between the City of Milton and LeaderGov to provide comprehensive management and leadership training for all staff. Agenda item number 2196. Our final item is an approval of a professional services agreement between the City of Milton and Voya Retirement Insurance, an annuity company, to provide investment services and administration related to the city's 401 and 457 plans. Agenda item number 2197.
Okay. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as read by the city clerk.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Longoria with a second from Councilmember Bentley. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. And still no audio from Councilmember Morag, is that correct? Okay.
Sounds like he's trying, but I don't think his microphone's working. I can see that he's unmuted himself.
Okay.
But
All right, so that's unanimous.
he said aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, next we'll move on to reports and presentations.
Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt. We had one comment that was emailed, and I believe he wanted it read into the record. Did we have that email from Mr. Sawyer?
I don't have that email.
Okay.
Yeah, I've
All right.
seen it. I saw the email.
It was, I believe it was emailed out to all the elected officials.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if that, I guess he would have wanted that on general public comment. Is that?
I believe so. I think I have it here, if you give me a moment. Do you want me to read it into the record?
Yeah, if that's if that's all right, Ken. Appropriate. Okay.
He says, my name is Scott Sawyer, and I reside at 787 Quarter Path Lane in Milton, Georgia. I viewed last week's City Council work session meeting on the former Milton Country Club trail plan and wanted to provide the following comments. The boardwalk and trail adjacent to the large park pond as proposed by the consultant Kimley Horn and adopted by the City Council in August 2019 is the best location for a trail and should be constructed as proposed. The boardwalk and trail through the trees and wetlands near the pond will provide walkers and hikers with a unique opportunity to experience the park's nature and ecosystem up close and in person. The trail will also provide shade for the hikers and an engaging way to complete the loop around the pond. I believe the landscape designers recommended this location for these reasons. If the boardwalk cannot be constructed, the alternative 2 trail proposed by the neighbors is the next best option. This proposed trail passes through the existing wetlands cart path and it runs adjacent to the tree line to circle the pond. This trail is the second best location for 3 reasons. 1, the trail will preserve the large meadow as it doesn't cut across the open field to the other side of the meadow. 2, it will provide hikers with a new, wider gravel walking trail instead of a small, crumbling golf cart paths. 3, the location adjacent to the tree line keeps hikers away from the quarter path lane homes and ensures the privacy and security of park visitors and the homeowners. The alternative 1 trail proposed by the city is the least desirable trail due to the following reasons. 1, the trail is closer to quarter path lane homes and will require significant city and homeowner screening to provide privacy and security to hikers and neighbors. 2, a significant portion of the old, narrow, and broken golf cart paths will be reused for this trail. 3, while alternative 1 trail is longer, it is only 0.2 miles longer than boardwalk and alternative 2 trails. Thank you for considering these comments. Our understanding, as stated in last week's work session, is that no votes were taken by the council to change the park master plan, and the meeting was designed for the city and community to explore trail options. That's it.
All right. Thank you. So, if our clerk, next reports and presentations.
Our first report and presentation is the oath of the office by Mayor Lockwood to new firefighters Timothy Brown and Mary Glasgow, presented by Mayor Lockwood.
Okay, and I want to, before we do this oath, I want to take an opportunity to thank our fire department and those in uniform, as well as all of our public safety. But you guys really had to work hard this weekend. We had 3 separate fires, and I appreciate you guys being there. Unfortunately, no one was hurt, and you protected lives and protected the adjacent property. So thank you guys for being there and keeping us safe.
With that being said, we are introducing 2 new firefighters to the City of Milton Fire Rescue Department. And after this weekend, it's good to have some fresh young blood coming into the department because our folks were wore out after this past weekend. And they did do a great job. All the agencies involved, our neighbors, our police department, our fire department, our EMS service, all did a great job. So we appreciate everybody. This evening, I want to introduce 2 new firefighters. Timothy Brown. He has spent 5 years in the Marine Corps. He was stationed at Kings Bay after completing high school. He earned his Good Conduct Medal as well as a Meritorious Unit Commendation. Timothy is a third-generation firefighter. Since his departure from the Marine Corps, he has completed fire school through Barry University as well as his EMT. He's very eager to join our department and continue the legacy that his family has started in the fire service. Additionally, I'd like to introduce Mary Glasgow. Mary grew up in Bay County, Florida, where she attended Gulf Coast State College, majoring in civil engineering. Mary is coming to us from AMR Ambulance Service, where she has worked as a paramedic for 3 years. She has received her paramedic certification through Faithful Guardian in 2019. Mary earned her EMT certifications through Grady EMS Academy in 2017. Mary has a family background in firefighting. Her mother was a firefighter paramedic in Bay County, Florida, and she's excited to follow in her mother's footsteps. And as always, and she's interested in helping people. So I'd like to introduce to you Tim Brown and Mary Glasgow. And Mayor, will you be honored if you would give them the oath of office?
Congratulations. I'd love to shake your hand. But different times. So if you would state your name and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Timothy Brown,
Swear and affirm
swear and affirm
that I am qualified to hold the position
that I am qualified to hold the position
of firefighter to which I'm appointed,
of firefighter to which I am appointed,
and for so long as I am employed with the City of Milton,
and for so long as I am employed by the City of Milton,
I do solemnly swear and affirm
I do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Georgia,
and the Constitution of the State of Georgia,
and I will faithfully perform and discharge the duties
I will faithfully perform and discharge the duties
of my position
of my position
conscientiously
conscientiously
and without malice
and without malice
or partiality
or partiality
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I further swear and affirm
I further swear and affirm
to obey, to adhere to, to uphold and to enforce the laws of the United States of America,
to uphold and enforce the laws of the United States of America,
the state of Georgia,
the State of Georgia,
and of the City of Milton
and to the City of Milton
at all times.
at all times.
I further swear and affirm
I further swear and affirm
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the City of Milton
and allegiance to the City of Milton
and the officers appointed over me
and the officers appointed over me
according to the law,
according to the law.
so help me God.
So help me God.
With that, I want to welcome you, congratulate you, and welcome you to the City of Milton. We sincerely appreciate everything that you've done to get here and everything that you'll be doing to keep our citizens and ourselves safe. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Would you mind signing?
Absolutely.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you. Yes. Thank you. And Tim, if you would please sign, print your name and sign. And Mayor, Council, Mary and Tim, they're going to be pinned. Mary's going to be pinned by Chelsea McDonald, her best friend and one of our firefighter paramedics, and the 2019 Firefighter of the Year. I'll mention that, right? And Tim's going to be pinned by his dad and his wife, and Tim's dad is a retired firefighter from South Florida.
Yeah, you do mind let them take a picture of you. And if we can get one more picture.
And again, a big thank you, sir, for being here with your son. Big shout out to Mary and Timothy. Thank you, and welcome to Milton. Proud to have you. Okay, Tammy, if you'll please call the next item.
Our next item is the discussion of the architectural design for Fire Station Number 42. Chief Edgar.
get far, did I? Okay.
Go ahead and see if you can advance it.
Let him know. Let's see here. Here goes. Thank you. Good evening again, Mayor, Council. What we're talking tonight and what I'd like to discuss with you is the Station 42 project. As you know, Station 42 is located on Thompson Road, and it was built in the 1970s with Fulton County as a volunteer station. And it has long exceeded his lifespan. Fulton County had planned on rebuilding that station, replacing and rebuilding in the 90s. That didn't take place, and here we are in 2020, and we still occupy that station with an engine company and a rescue company, a minimum staffing of 5 people. Sometimes we have 6 there, and a 3,700 square foot building. And if you've been by that building, you can tell that it has, it's ready to go. It's ready to be replaced. Here's the property lines for it. You can see where the building sits. It's on a very small plot, and it has the AT&T tower or the cell tower to the rear of that. What our future plan here is that Station 44 is scheduled to open in September of 2020. Station 42, once that station opens, Station 42 personnel and apparatus, the rescue and the engine, would relocate to Station 44. At that point, we would go ahead and decommission Station 42 and begin the teardown process and then replace that. The goal is to build a new state-of-the-art 50-year building, similar to what we have done here with Station 44. And I'm very excited about that building and the work that's been done there. Bob Buscemi has done an outstanding job, and for me to be able to work with him on that project, it's what a learning experience it has been for me. The design of the new building will be approximately 7,000 square feet. It'll be a 2-bay, single-story station, and it will house 8 firefighters. So we're planning for growth in the future for that particular structure. And the design of that will fit the characteristics and blend into that residential community where that station sits today. The RFQ process went out for an architectural design firm. Bids were submitted, and Croft was selected by a committee of city staff as well as firefighter staff. We negotiated an agreement, and the contract gave us 2 options. The first option was a lead option at just over $213,000 for architectural design, and without a lead certification, it was almost $176,000. So it's just less than $38,000 difference just for an architectural design for a lead project versus a non-lead project. The original budget did not take into consideration a lead project. The design will include the sustainable elements similar to what we've already done in Station 44. Most lead items are built into current building codes, which we've also been implemented into Station 44. And depending on the level of lead and what elements, the cost can vary up to 20%. And that's an overall project cost. That's not just architectural design. So we estimate the project to cost about $4 million. And then with a 20% increase on top of that, you can see that we're about an $800,000 estimate on that project. Well, let me back up here. With that additional cost, the demolition of that particular building, Station 42, where it exists today, the demolition also has to follow LEED certification requirements, such as you have to separate the debris. Some has to go to the landfill, some has to go to recycling. So that's an additional cost on top of that. If the decision is to move forward with the LEED project, we would have to add the funds to that project or cut something out of the project in order to meet the budget. We've made some great strides in firefighter safety with everything that we've done, everything you've supported us on. including the firefighter cancer initiative, the exhaust extractors we put in the stations, the new station alerting, which it has the increased or the volume control where it's not startling the firefighters. So all of those things have gone into the health and safety of the station. And with the lead project, I'm afraid that something's going to have to be cut out, or we're going to have to find additional funding. And the last thing I would like to see is anything that would jeopardize the firefighters' safety in the fire stations. Some of the appliances that we put into Station 44, we did not go with commercial grade stuff. We went ahead with high efficiency appliances that we can replace easily. We've bought all our appliances from our local stores such as Lowe's and Home Depot. They've supported us in this project. So when those things reach their life expectancy, we can easily just go to those stores and purchase new items and not have to go to a commercial side of that. The other thing is the technology that goes into the lead. And trust me, I am speaking outside of my wheelhouse here on lead. And I've got Bob Ashimi here who supported me on this and helped me and educated me on this, is that the technology that goes into these lead projects can cost us more in maintenance years down the road. Right now, our staff takes care of all our stations. We handle everything in our fire stations now. And I'm afraid that if we go beyond that and get too technical, we're going to have to go to outside sources for maintenance. So, again, if you can see Station 44 and when you have an opportunity to get in there, I think you'll really be impressed. I think you'll see that we have done everything we can to build a sustainable station and something that will meet the lead requirements, but not necessarily get the scorecard for it and have that plaque on the wall. So I will leave it at that. I've got, if you have questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. If they're lead-directed questions, I would ask that Bob come up and help me out with those. Thank you.
I'll just make a comment in my experience and in the buildings we've done in the past, including City Hall. You're correct in the cost differences if we were to have a, quote, LEED certified building. So all your points are valid. The reality is we can, I'm in favor of building a building that's not LEED certified, but we can spend the money and do the things right that basically we put a lot of the things in that are included in a LEED certified building, but just not to the point that you're discussing. So I'll open up. Any questions on that, Paul?
Could I comment, Carol?
Yeah, Carol. Go ahead.
I am these days not a fan of LEED, and I think that there are enough economies of scale and technological savvy to accomplish a number of LEED initiatives without the LEED certification, and some about LEED that are kind of ridiculous. So I'm in favor of proceeding without the LEED certification, that path.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Paul?
Thank you.
Chief, are there any consequences for not being a LEED certified building? There's no penalty, there's no other governmental agency overlooking us to say you have to have something or there's a cost associated with it?
I think that one might fall right outside my wheelhouse, sir.
Okay.
I would ask that Bob maybe, if you'd help me with that particular question. I'm not familiar with the government.
I don't think
guidelines.
there are, but I just want to make sure
We get graded as a city on certain categories. I forget if it's the Green City Initiative or which one it is, where LEED certification gets us extra points, but it doesn't preclude us from gaining the recognition on that.
There's no financial forfeiture. There's no, as long as we're that, and I'm Chief, the 44 is spectacular. And I haven't had a chance to be inside. I've watched the process, and if that is a non-LEED certified building and that's the outcome, I'm very much in favor of that.
And we are, with Milton Country Club, where the clubhouse is pursuing LEED certification, so that will help us on that Green Communities scorecard.
Great. Thanks, Bob.
Anybody else? Okay. All right. I think you have direction.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Tammy, if you'll please call the next item.
Our third and final reports and presentation item is discussion of concept for Freemanville Road at Birmingham Road intersection improvement. Mr. Robert Drury, and Mayor, we do have two public comments for this item.
Mr. Drury, Robert, I'd almost rather take public comment first if we can on that. And
Okay.
that way, when Robert makes his presentation, maybe he can address any
Okay.
of those items.
Thank you. I can first like to call Ms. Tamara DeJurkis, and we'll give for the reports and presentation for the roundabout.
Hi, I'm sorry, I thought this was going to do the presentation first, so I wanted to comment on what's in the presentation.
Do you mind just name and address for the record?
Tamara DeJurgis, 1425 Birmingham Road. Sorry.
No, for the record.
Should know it by now. Okay. So I did want to talk about the plan. I know that this came up in January, and it's come up for the last 7 years. I want to thank you for taking it back to rework it some more, and I do have a few concerns about it still. When you guys see this, one is that the driveway on Freemanville, when you look at the presentation on what's proposed, you'll see that the merge lanes come out right at my driveway. And that's going to make it very difficult to make a left-hand turn. And the solution that was given to me was, well, why don't you go through the roundabout? Well, in the evenings, Birmingham Road is backed up from Birmingham Highway, sometimes all the way back to Hopewell Road. So that's not really a viable solution. So that is one concern. And the other thing is that there are 2 lanes coming, what you'll see in the presentation, and it's probably about 150-ish feet. I don't know, Robert, is that about how far it is? Okay, so basically there are already speed issues on both Birmingham Road and Freemanville, so they're going to be able to do a nice little slingshot and be coming down, and then they will pick up a lot of speed right where the driveway comes out. So no matter what, that's going to be a pretty big issue, I would think. And when I asked about is speed going to be addressed, the answer was no. That it's a roundabout. There's not going to be anything there to address the speed approaching the roundabout. Also on northbound traffic on Freemanville backs up in the evenings, and that goes all the way past that curve, so probably down about a half mile. So trying to get out to even turn right or left, that will also be difficult because it's going to be essentially gridlocked, particularly until the next intersection at Birmingham Road and Birmingham Highway is addressed. I think it could create a pretty good choke point right in front of my house. And so I'm concerned about the access there. And switching over to the driveway on Birmingham Road, this is the driveway that I take my horse trailer in and out of, as well as receive deliveries of feed, hay, you name it. So it's large trailers that have to come in and out of there. And that, the driveway there is, I believe, about 100 feet from the... Okay, it's right around 100 feet. Okay, and again, cars are going to be coming around a blind corner. That's also a school bus stop. Cars pick up a lot of speed coming around that corner with the stop sign. I can't imagine what that's going to be coming around it. And then again, turning left out of there with a horse trailer, there are medians there, and that's going to be difficult going either way, both with the speed coming across there. Either direction is going to be difficult. So this is going to impact the ability to use my property as it's been used, both by me, the prior owner, and, going way back, probably at least 100 years. This is inverse condemnation. I also wanted to find out what the plan is for the trees and the shrubs, because right now I have trees and shrubs planted all the way around that. One, for privacy, because that intersection over the last 10 years has gotten much louder. But also, it's privacy. And then the other thing is to protect my fence, because people get in accidents at that intersection quite a lot. Some of them are reported, some of them are not reported, because I've come out and found my fence down before I started putting the trees up there so that they can at least hit the trees and not my fence, because I don't want my livestock to get out. Thankfully, my horses haven't been the ones that have gotten out, but I take a lot of measures to make sure that happens. There's also a drainage ditch along Freemanville Road. That is, I'm concerned about flooding, because that wasn't taken into account into the plan. And so it could, and my house is located very close to the intersection. I'd like to understand the noise buffers. It's still, the plan that's in the presentation that was sent out today is still using an old plat map, and I noticed that other owners had not commented. A couple of them are incorrect. It doesn't even list the city of Milton as owning the property across the street from me. I do need, so on the driveways, I need some help with that, understanding some more of that, as well as buffering them. Putting, I don't know what it's called, an apron or whatever, so that they're protected a little bit. The other thing that I wanted to be sure was addressed is the construction crews. In May of 2019, an employee of a contractor hired by the city of Milton came onto my property, trespassed, relieved himself on my property, and then proceeded to chase me. And he was a,
Mayor,
it was later.
We've exceeded the 5 minutes. I'm so sorry. That was what that was. Do you want to extend for the record?
I'll give you a little more time to wrap it up.
This is my last point.
Yeah, sure.
It's the, this person chased me. The city hired this contractor who hired this employee, and this employee had an assault record. I have a minor child on the property, and I want to be sure that appropriate supervision measures are taken. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And then we have another public comment. Is that correct?
Our next public comment is from Ms. Judy Birds.
Okay. And just while we're waiting, and I know you mentioned the presentation versus public comment, sometimes we'll allow public comment first, because in that way when it's presented, sometimes they can address some of the concerns. So.
Very thorough.
Judy Birds, 1165 Bream Drive, Milton, Georgia. I live about a half a mile from this intersection. I am very concerned that this presentation was not included in the packet for tonight's meeting. Georgia has very clear sunshine laws to assure that citizens have access to information, and I believe that Milton should be transparent in its dealings with its citizens. I travel through this intersection many times each week in normal time, so have kept a vested interest in it, as has many of my neighbors. This particular topic had previous issues with how it was handled in front of council and some of the processes, so I would have thought care would have been taken to get this information to its citizens with the packet last Friday, so I didn't have to spend 2 spins through 1,095 pages trying to find it. The presentation link was published on Facebook around noon today after citizens' requests to receive the information. I've only had a short time to review the schematics, but offer the following points. We have very few small horse farms remaining in Milton, and care should be taken to preserve them. I am pleased that the proposed design has shifted west and I think shrank the size of the roundabout to remedy the non-conforming lot that would have occurred in the interim design that was mishandled by the city, in my opinion, the interim design. A horse farm needs to be able to transport its horses. The new design needs to assure that a horse trailer can enter and exit the property, as well as Tamara mentioned, feed trucks, etc. It's a farm. The plan indicates that the city will be grading along several property lines, plus increase the amount of impervious surfaces. A hydrology study and drainage plan needs to be included in the next stages. Care needs to be taken that homes, pastures, trees, and historic structures are not damaged by the change in water flow. The grading will clear several existing natural buffers on multiple lots. The city will need to replace these buffers as part of the project, hopefully consistent with some of the discussion on the buffers for the residents along the former Milton Country Club. And in closing, the construction also has to be coordinated with the Birmingham Crossroads improvements. That discussion point was made, I think, by me almost 4, 5, 6 years ago when this topic first came up. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done. I think we still have to make sure that citizens are allowed a chance to review information prior to the meetings so that we can provide informed input. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's the other final, or any other public comment? Okay.
Yes. For this item.
Ken, while we're waiting here, would you mind just clarifying? I know, typically the staff will publish anything on our agenda prior to the meeting and whatnot, but on reports and presentations, a lot of times that's to bring forward to the council kind of a first look and to discuss. It's certainly not anything we're voting on. It will come back later. Is there any other process, do you have any comments on that? If we should do something different?
I listened to the speaker and obviously took note of that. I will say, from a purely technical position, the Open Meetings Act doesn't even talk about the packet. The Open Meetings Act talks about minutes and agendas and notices. There's some governments in Georgia that don't have a packet at all. So the point is to make sure that we advise citizens and give them reasonable notice of what the government's going to talk about. Milton and a lot of the metro jurisdictions go beyond that and make sure the citizens have the same documentation that the council does. Reports and presentations is different. It's tended to be more of an informal update. You don't take official action. You don't vote after reports and presentations. So I certainly can see a difference between that and a bona fide agenda item. So, I'm comfortable from an Open Meetings Act standpoint. And I will say, for the record as well, I think Milton does a pretty good job with respect to giving citizens the backup for most agenda items.
Okay. And I certainly understand the comments brought up and whatnot, but again, this is coming to us so that, just to us now too, so that we can all kind of digest it and work for it through the future. So before it comes before us officially, that we would take a vote on it or whatnot.
Mayor, Council, I appreciate your time to make this presentation, and
hit the forward arrow. Click on the screen with the mouse.
oh, there's a forward. Yeah.
Where's the mouse?
Oh, there it is. There you go. So just click the mouse. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, David. What I'm going to present to you is the conceptual layout for the intersection of Freemanville and Birmingham, has been discussed in the public comment. First, a little bit of background, just to kind of refresh your memories. This intersection was discussed combined with the Providence and Freemanville intersection back in 2014, where it was a combined concept study and some survey work done back then. And I think it was agreed at that time that a roundabout would be the most appropriate use at this intersection. In May of 2019, the city hired Wolverton to prepare a conceptual design and the design work for this particular intersection. And in January of this year, the council did award a task order to BM&K to oversee the design work and oversee the right-of-way acquisition. And it was at that meeting there was a lot of discussion about revisiting the concept layout. So because of that meeting, we did enter a change order with Wolverton to look at the conceptual layout, and they did that. That was change order was approved in April of this year. So the Wolverton Associates has proposed a conceptual layout, and we did invite, there are 3 affected property owners that we did invite to meet one-on-one to go over the conceptual plan. And of those 3, only 1 responded, and of course that was Ms. DeDurgis. And staff met her out there, staff and the consultant. And she did provide a lot of comments, and venture to say probably all these comments was probably discussed at that meeting. There are impacts to her property, no doubt. There are impacts to all 4 of those parcels. And I know in this conceptual plan stage, it is kind of early to kind of determine, particularly the drainage. You know, that has not been designed. We don't know the grades, the roads approaching. So it's too early to say what the drainage is going to look like until they get into the design work. She did mention the speed. I don't know if that came up in the previous meeting with her on site, but I do know that as typical with roundabouts, the approach speed will be downsized to 25 when you're approaching the roundabout and as you exit the roundabout. Then we sent letters out advising those 3 affected property owners that we would be meeting and discussing this today. So, what you have in front of you is an overlay. The shaded roundabout is the latest concept that was presented, and then the colored roundabout is what's been revised. And it is a significant shift as much as practical to the west and southwest a little bit as well. And we are utilizing as much as we can of the city-owned property. This particular layout, it does avoid some of the significant utilities. We do have a telephone compound down on the southeast side of Freemanville Road, as you're familiar with, and relocating that would be just significant. And then in the northwest quadrant of undeveloped, currently undeveloped, we understand there is a Fulton County water that ties into their tower. So when you lay out these designs, you do take into consideration the engineering entry angles. As you know, when you approach a roundabout, you do want some variation in the angle to slow the traffic down. But you don't want too much of an angle either, because it becomes an unsafe movement. Also, engineering taking into consideration the approach and departure speeds, as I mentioned. I also just want to quickly reference on the northwest side there is a large buffer of evergreens, and some of those will have to be removed. And I know when they meet with that property owner, there'll be discussions about either reestablishing that buffer or compensating. So that is the comparison of the 2 layouts, and this is where we landed on the current conceptual layout. What I really want you to focus on is the curb lines and the asphalt. That's the shaded area. And of course, the medians as well. Of course, they're just drawn in for discussion purposes. But I really want you to focus on those aspects. We know as we get into design work, we'll look at what the acquisition looks like. Right now, it appears that there's going to be right-of-way acquisition on 2 of the 4 parcels, and perhaps some easement or slope easements on the other 2 parcels as well. So it's just too early to say. So I don't really want you to focus on what the easements look like, because we don't really know at this time until we get into the design work. But that is the conceptual layout, and it is a nice balance between engineering and the property that we have to deal with. So where do we go from here? The next steps would be, assuming there's no design considerations, to the conceptual layout. We'll advise Wolverton, our consultant, to proceed with the design work. And it may take 4 months, 5 months for them to actually get something on paper that we can actually meet with the residents, the owners, and determine what kind of easements or what kind of right-of-way has to be acquired. And then once that's resolved, we are hoping we can be out and have this out construction sometime within the next 12 months. So that's where we are with the conceptual. Again, this is just a conceptual. We haven't done any engineering design work yet until we get into the, like I said, the grades and the drainage. So I'm available for any questions.
Yeah, I'll open up questions. Anybody have any? Laura?
Robert, could you go back to the overlay of the old and new?
Let me see.
I didn't get all that. Okay.
There it is.
Yes, thank you. So as we shift that over, I'm just trying to get a feel for, accommodating on the city-owned property, as far as how many feet, just to try to quantify that, which, it's city-owned, but it still is in the Citizens Digest of things. So I appreciate that we've done that and accommodated some of the property owners, but do we have a feel for how much has shifted on to the city property?
No, we really don't. It is significant. It's obviously the largest portion is going to be on the city-owned property, particularly the acquisition. And I was informed this afternoon that, because this is green space, it will have to be reimbursed. So whatever that fair market value is would be reimbursed into the green space fund.
Okay, so we'll buy it back and then reimburse ourselves. Okay, that's fair.
I believe. Yes.
My other comment is the northwest property, the evergreens that are there, so that shifts and that impacts. I know that they may not have come tonight or aren't, but that's a horse farm, as I recall, as well. So we've got two important farms on that corner and a nice estate. So my comment is appreciate the adjustment. I think we're trying to, minimize the impact as best we can. And it'll be interesting as we move into the design stage. I had a couple comments. People wanted to make sure, since it's in our very rural area, that it's going to be designed for horse trailers to easily maneuver. Is that a good assumption?
Yes, those radius will have to be accommodated for sure. I don't know what they're going to be designed at, distance-wise, but I know we'll put the templates on them for that.
Okay. Because people, there's many, many farms in that area, and they need to be able to safely get around without going through the middle of it with big rigs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Paul?
Thanks, Joe. Just in keeping with Laura's comment, Robert, I'm assuming as we're assessing for the length and issues presented by horse trailers, we would give that same consideration to a Publix truck or a Kroger truck or a moving van going through that.
That's correct.
It's probably too early to have an answer to this, but is the design, can it be likened to anything else that we've seen in terms of how the roundabout itself will be treated? Would it be anything like for example, the one at Providence and Providence and 372. Mm-hmm. So it's a significantly larger roundabout than this. So the hard surface that allows the larger vehicles to process through there is probably smaller. Then you compare that to the new roundabout at Freemanville and Providence. It's significantly smaller. There's more hard surface. So the trailers actually go up onto the hard surface. Do you imagine it being more like the Freemanville example that's out there today?
I haven't put any overlays on it as far as the other two that you mentioned, but I do suspect it's probably likened to the Freemanville Providence.
Okay.
That is a mountable curb, and that is designed for trailers and trucks to mount that curb in the center island. And it's a perfectly acceptable maneuver, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And in that design that we've experienced at Freemanville, I want to address some of the concerns that were brought up this evening about traffic speeds in the roundabout. Our typical traffic posting is 25 miles an hour in all of our roundabouts. Is that correct?
I believe that's for all of them, yes, sir. I don't know about the 372. I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah. Are we aware of any traffic violations or citations being issued for excessive speed in our roundabouts today?
Sorry, I'm not at liberty. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Okay. But at 25 miles an hour and the smaller of those is actually probably conducive to a lower speed. The smaller the roundabout, you really have to be more careful because the cars that are coming through have less distance to travel before you're upon one another. I would hope that consideration would address some of the traffic speed issues. I guess my last question is, as we've experienced the roundabout introductions in all the different locations we've had, every one of those, when they were prior to their introduction, had a traffic backup issue. And in your assessment of the introduction of those, are we experiencing any backups at any of those at this point? Now, I know in this case in particular there's an anomaly in the fact that just down the road we've got Birmingham and Birmingham that's going to be addressed in the future. But at the other ones, have we experienced relief from the backups?
There's evidence out here at Mayfield and Heritage. That's going to be once school gets back in session too. I think you'll see some significant improvements there as well.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like most of the concerns can be addressed, and those that have not been addressed will be addressed during the engineering phases.
That's correct.
Great. Thanks, Robert.
Okay. Anybody else?
That one's hard to follow. He's very thorough.
I mean, I'll just make a comment. I mean, basically, if you look at the overlay of the two, it has certainly been adjusted measurably for existing property owners. In fact, almost to the detriment of the public, with the city, the public property. So, and I think that's a good point, too, to realize as we were discussing, this is a concept. It's not written in stone. Moving forward, as you're saying, it's got to be engineered. So we don't know what drainage, we don't know what exact dimensions and driveways are, and that it will also be meetings with the property owners and whatnot, working together with them. And, basically, a lot of that stuff is, for the experts to work out, along with the property owners and whatnot as you engineer it and get more details, correct?
That's correct. That's an excellent point because bringing these comments up now is the right time.
Yeah.
Not do it after we get into design.
Right, so that they can be aware that those, and things may have to change. It may not be exactly like this. So, and at some point this will come back for approval, but it'll be down the road a ways.
Yes, it'll come back to the council as a bid.
But there'll be time for, obviously, if you've got engineering going, then they're also going to meet with affected property owners and, hopefully can alleviate most of the concerns.
That's the idea. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Rick or Carol, do you have any comments?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay.
I believe.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, if our city clerk can please sound the first presentation items.
Our first item is consideration of U20-01/VC20-01, located at 12900 Arnold Mill Road by Ebenezer United Methodist Church to request a use permit, Section 64-1804, to construct a 23,000 square foot activity center on the existing church property, approximately 5,088 square feet, for a total of 28,088 square feet on 6.61 acres, to request a two-part concurrent variance to 1, allow parking in front of a building, Section 64-1143, and to reduce required parking. Agenda item number 20198. Our second and final first presentation item is consideration of ZM20-03, located at 13210 Bethany Road, zoned R2, single-family residential, by Big Sky Stables, LLC. Chris Hively requesting to modify Condition 2 of RZ 72-222 to reduce the front building setback from 150 feet to 100 feet from Bethany Road to conform to existing setbacks in this particular area of Bethany Road. Agenda item number 20199.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion on these first presentation items for approval?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve first presentation as read.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Bentley for approval with a second from Councilmember Moore. All in favor, please say aye.
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 That's unanimous. Okay, we'll move on to our public hearing. Sudie, if you'll please call the next item.
First item is consideration of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to Rougarou, Inc., doing business as Cans Tequila, 12635 Crabapple Road, Suite 320, Milton, Georgia, 30004. Agenda item number 2200.
Okay, are there any questions on that?
Are they operating today? Is there a temporary permit for them to be pouring? Great, thank you.
Okay. Do we have any public comment on?
Not on this item, sir.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing on that. Is there any other questions? If not, I'll open up for a motion on this item.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve agenda item number 20-200.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Longoria with a second from Councilmember Moore. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we don't have any items under our zoning agenda, so we'll move on to unfinished business. Tammy, if you'll please read the item.
The first item is consideration of an ordinance to amend the Milton Tree Canopy Conservation Ordinance to provide a time extension on the ability to use the density-based tree conservation ordinance or the canopy-based tree conservation ordinance in the city code. Agenda item number 2183. Mr. Parag Agrawal.
Mayor and the City Council members, today I'm in front of you to present you the amendment to the tree conservation ordinance that will allow the time extension on the ability to use either the density-based tree conservation ordinance or the canopy-based tree conservation ordinance. The staff is requesting that the time should be extended from July 31st, 2020 to November 30th, 2020. So we are requesting an extension of 4 months. As we know, the staff is working to update the tree conservation ordinance and we are on the final stretches. We gave a presentation to the City Council on June 15th, 2020, and this item will again be in front of the City Council on August 3rd. So this extension will give us additional of 4 months, and we are hoping that the City Council will approve the new tree conservation ordinance in the month of August. And then in the next 2 months, it will give us some time for public outreach and education to the Milton residents.
Okay. Any questions or comments on that? Do we have any public comment?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll open up for motion. Paul.
Actually, I'd just like to revisit, Parag, a conversation that we've had last Friday. There were a couple of remaining open issues that I had asked last time we met about this for a deferral to have a chance to discuss it and come back to this meeting with recommendations. And we appreciate the fact that you are giving this careful consideration. There are still three open items that I think a number of council and maybe even the mayor has had follow-up meetings and discussions with you on. And I walked out of the meeting the other day with the impression that there was maybe more consensus than that there actually might be. So I had a chance to follow up with some of the other council members in one-on-one conversation. And it sounds like maybe there's some more discussion that needs to be had on those, at least 2 out of the 3. If you think about the first one that we talked about, or not necessarily in the order that we talked about them, but the 3 items, the first of those is the consideration of the tree caliper size, and there was some discussion about there being a compromise from one size to another. It doesn't sound like there's as much consensus as there might have been, so I look forward to further discussion on that one. I'm concerned that the understory trees are not going to be protected like we thought they would be.
Okay.
My personal experience was just working in my yard this weekend and realizing as I was looking at some of my dogwoods that my house is 20 years old. And so those trees were planted about the same time of the construction of my home. And I'm concerned that some of those are only in the 8 to 10 inch range now. And as a part of an understory, the way the discussion we had the other day went, it was about the fact that they wouldn't really be considered as a part of the canopy, which I certainly understand from a measurement standpoint. But I'm just so afraid that as we look at future development, the trees like that bring beauty and value to a homestead aren't as protected as we might have thought they were. So I'd like to give some additional consideration to that. The second, which is an easy one, which was we're looking for some consideration to the sizes of lots and the ability to incentivize larger lots. It appears there is more consensus on that. We've moved in the right direction on that one. The third is the timeline to review the tree canopy. We talked about 2 different numbers in particular. Not to exceed 3 years from one measurement to the next, and the other one settling at 5 years. And again, I walked out of the meeting thinking that there was stronger consensus than what I've since discovered in my own follow-up conversation, just to make sure I could be on the same page and support the council members that had other meetings with you guys. And I've discovered that doesn't appear to be the same consensus that we thought there might be. So I would just encourage some additional discussion on that item as well. I'm concerned in particular, Parag, that as we look at the extraordinary things that are happening in our world today, we know that 2 things appear to be, or one thing but 2 examples as to how it's happening, that there appears to be some urban flight going on. I think that makes sense, that people who are stacked on top of each other in a higher concentration of residents are just choosing to step away from that for a more rural setting. And the second part of that is with the civil unrest that's happening around our country today. There is a lot of that happening, and we don't know when that will come to an end. So I think people are choosing to leave the city. There's a lot of pressure for those folks to find places out here. And the example that I would give for that is that on a social media post recently, there was a realtor that said that she had 5 immediate ready buyers who are looking to purchase in the Milton area in our school systems at 1.3 to 1.8 million. And that's extraordinary to have 5 buyers in that price range. And that, although I don't have proof of this particular comment that I'm about to make, it appears that would be probably an urban, higher cost residence that's being sold that gives them the available cash to come out here and look at that. So I think there's going to be some development pressure that will come from urban flight. Not knowing what that's going to look like, I'm just concerned that if we do look at a 5-year review versus a not to exceed 3 years, at least give some consideration to maybe the first time or the second time be in the 3-year range. We see if there's any difference between those. We know that some of our past measurements have not produced extraordinary change. If that trend is proven to be the continued trend, I would have no problem to move to 5 years after a time or 2 in the 3-year measurement range. So I just offer that for additional consideration.
Feedback, Councilmember Moore. Very good feedback.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I would just say, obviously, Councilmember Moore too, feel free to keep discussing with staff and council, and that will, this come back the 3rd?
August 3rd.
The 3rd. Yeah. Certainly be prepared to discuss that before we vote on it. So.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay. I was asked for a motion. If there's no other comments, I'll open for a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 20-183.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Bentley with a second from Councilmember Longoria. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That sounds, that's unanimous. Tammy, so if you would please read the next item.
Our second item is the consideration to adopt the revised Milton Tree Canopy Conservation Ordinance and Tree Conservation Manual. Staff is recommending this item to be deferred until August the 3rd, 2020. Agenda item number 2157, Mr. Parag Agrawal.
Mayor and City Council members, so on June 15th, 2020, the staff made a presentation to the City Council on the update of the Tree Conservation Ordinance. After the presentation, the City Council made a motion that this item should be deferred till July 20th, 2020. So the staff is incorporating the feedback which we received from the City Council. We also met a couple of City Council members, and as Councilmember Moore mentioned, there is some more work to do. We have also given this tree conservation ordinance update to the City Attorney's Office, and they're also currently reviewing it. And we will be requesting that the City Council should again be this item should be deferred to August 3rd City Council agenda.
Okay, any questions on that? Any public comment?
Not on this one,
Okay.
no, sir.
Do I have a motion on this item?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve agenda item 20-157.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Councilmember Moore, second from Councilmember Bentley. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Parag. Tammy, if you'd please read the final unfinished business item.
Our final item is consideration of an ordinance to amend Chapter 4, Section 85, Farm Wineries of the Alcoholic Beverages of the Code of the City of Milton, Georgia. Agenda item number 2182. Ms. Sarah Ledart. This item does have two public comments.
Okay. I'll go ahead and, it's okay with the council, I'll ask for public comment first, and that way it allows.
Okay. Our first,
Okay.
just a few minutes. Our first comment will be from Pamela Jackson.
Pamela Jackson, 2105 Bethany Way. I was really hoping Sarah would go first because I don't know what I'm here to talk about again, and you all already know that, so I'm here. I guess my understanding is that what you're voting on today is just the foreign wine being added to, and then the beer and spirits are being dealt with later? Okay. Well, my only comment is I'm here. You know it's real important to me, and hopefully I'll get some clarification when Sarah speaks. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public comment is going to be from Ms. Judy Birds.
Okay. And I will say this, if again, I was trying to be helpful while allowing the public comment first. If either of the public comment folks, that have made public comment after the presentation, if they feel strongly about it, I'll ask the council if they'll allow them to speak again, if it's all right with Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you. Judy Birds, 1165 Bream Drive, Milton, Georgia. I am so pleased we are getting Section 4 rewritten of the code. I think we are almost there. At the last Zoom meeting, I tried to say there's still one thing you need to fix. If everyone would look at 4138, subsection 2, there is a reference there to an individual can only be served 2 drinks at a time, unless, of course, it's a sampling of beer. Usually wine flights are 3 wines, small samples. So if you could please, while you're fixing 4 today, also fix 4-138, subsection 2, to add the word after beer or wine so we can have wine flights in Milton. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's all the public comments you had, right, Tammy?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. Hold on one second, Sarah.
Thank you, Dennis. Good evening, Mayor and Council. On both the June 1st and June 15th council meetings, I was given direction to go back and look at Chapter 4, Section 85, which is the farm winery section of our code, to allow not only Georgia wines, but wines from anywhere. I think the word that has been used is foreign, but we didn't want to go after speaking with the attorney and then have to define what foreign means. So she came up, it's in front of council right now, this wording, which is in wines produced or shipped from outside of the state. So that means in America, in France, she can sell whatever she wants. The second thing that we addressed, council asked that we go and look at the use permit process and we've started looking into that. That's a much longer process than just changing Chapter 4. But this last sentence that the attorney added is other sales of alcohol may be permitted by state law and city ordinance. In the event that council chooses to adopt a use permit in the future that would allow this, we don't have to touch this section again. And if you choose not to adopt that, this is fine here as well. So it works either way with what council decides in the future. So tonight, this is to make all wine available at farm wineries.
Okay, are there any questions or comments on that, Paul?
So I'd just like to clarify that last part again. So if we accept the tag on of the last language with this, can you read that to me again, please?
Other sales of alcohol may be as permitted by state law and city ordinances.
So that would include spirits?
So if we create a use permit that allows that, yes.
And so
to clarify, this is not saying open-ended, you can serve spirit.
Right, no, it's not.
Right, you'd have to go through the permit
Yes,
process.
right.
But it opens it up to consideration of spirits under Chapter 4.
Right, so should, when we go in, and it makes sense in my head. Nobody else's. So in Chapter 64, if we add a use permit for farm wineries that they could sell beer and liquor, with this sentence, they can do it under Chapter 4 as well.
Does that preempt then the requirement we've had historically for if you're going to have spirits, or we've had a requirement for food sales? Does that preclude that then?
That would be what I believe we're going to attempt to come in front of council at next month's work session. That will be one of the things that we consider as part of the use permit process. When we list out the things that a farm winery would have to do, that's something that we will discuss.
So the farm winery, by this, pardon me, this clarity is really going to be important, I think, at some point. So a farm winery, by definition, can include the sale by this change, wine, beer, and spirits.
No.
That has to come with the permitting process.
A special use permit, yes.
Okay.
That's not created yet.
Yep. I'm good then. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? Based on our public comment, the flights and do you have any comments on that? Or?
I discussed that with the attorney, and she didn't see that as a concern. I will clarify that with the attorney and get back with Ms. Birds about that.
Okay. Ken,
there's no, I don't think there's any problem with it at all. It just can't be done tonight. It can't be done as part of this modification.
It can or cannot?
It cannot.
Okay.
That would be introducing a whole different verbiage that no one is, so I mean, I get the idea that can be done maybe the next round of revisions, but just not this evening.
Okay. Clarify. All right, any other comments, Carol or Rick?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. I'll open up for, and just to clarify, both people that spoke public comment, you okay with? Which? Okay. All right. I'm sure we can have discussions
we can
afterwards.
Check, yes.
Okay. I'll open up for a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 20-182.
Second. Okay, I have a motion for approval from Councilmember Bentley with a second from Councilmember Longoria. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 That's unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, if we'll move on to unfinished business. Tammy, if you'll please sound the first item.
You mean new business?
I'm
New
sorry,
business.
did I say
Yeah, I'm
unfinished?
sorry. This is new business.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Consideration of an amended emergency ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Milton, Georgia under section 3.18 of the charter of the city of Milton, Georgia, under section 3.18 of the charter of the city of Milton, Georgia, to provide for the operation of the city of Milton, Georgia during the public emergency known as the novel coronavirus disease 2019 global pandemic, to become effective upon adoption by the council to supersede the existing emergency ordinance, to adopt the city's reopening plan, and for other purposes. Agenda item number 2201, Mr. Ken Gerard.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I won't be approaching you this evening, but I do want to go over this very quickly with you. As you know, since about mid-March, when the world changed, as Councilmember Moore was discussing, we have been adopting variations on an emergency ordinance that's candidly provided by the rules of the City of Milton and your charter. Setting in place certain powers. Many of those powers, however, were either unexercised or have been superseded in totality by the governor. As you know, has taken a fairly strong position that the governor's rule is going to be the rule in the state of Georgia. Nonetheless, basically, the primary thing that our ordinance has done has been to try and lessen the burden of this on small business and to provide some of our businesses some relief with respect to when penalties and taxes, et cetera, are required. As you are also aware, the statewide declaration of emergency has in fact been extended. I believe right now it extends until August 11th is the current iteration. We have attempted to match our ordinance with the statewide declaration for a variety of reasons, but mainly for the purposes of assisting these businesses that need a little bit of relief. As such, we are asking the council to go ahead and renew the emergency ordinance. This would in fact actually be retroactive. The actual date that this one expired would have been July 12th, so it will be retroactive, and it says that in the ordinance to make sure it covers that gap. It will expire at 11:59 p.m. on August 11th, unless, of course, it is extended again, which is probably likely. The reason these are done in 30-day increments is because that's what your rules require. They be done in 30-day increments. This will continue to allow the to-go malt beverages and wine alcohol with restaurants for consumption, all of the various things that you put in place, additional temporary signage for restaurants and retail, the deferring of payment of certain alcohol excise taxes and occupation taxes, et cetera. All of those, again, attempting just to help small business. Mr. Mayor, it's my recommendation the council, in fact, adopt this emergency ordinance to extend until August 11th the emergency declaration under your charter.
Okay, are there any questions or comments for Ken on this? Laura?
I should comment, and obviously I support extending the emergency order. Just as a point of, continuing in this environment, I'm wondering if we have any flexibility under this emergency order to adjust our meeting requirements. I know that we can't dial in if we are within the city, and I understand the reason for that, but as we move into, winter and people worried about, I don't know if I have a cold or if I have, COVID-19, but we could all, that situation could recur, and I'm just wondering if we have any flexibility there to make that adjustment so that we can be extra vigilant with, staying away if we need to, but also being able to participate.
Right, it's a great question, Councilmember Bentley. So with respect to the protocols for having an open meeting, regrettably, that's set by state law, which we can't waive. We have been taking advantage, of course, we took advantage with some enthusiasm for a while, doing teleconference meetings. You recall, that it would be on a computer screen. No one was physically assembled. The law does allow that, and we took advantage of it, and that's in situations of declared emergency. But, of course, we also then had a reopening plan that this council has already adopted, and that reopening plan, one of the things it did was to have these, go back to real in-person meetings. If the council wants to revisit the notion of doing some additional teleconferencing or streaming meetings that aren't live, the law doesn't do a really good job of a hybrid approach. You're either in person or there's an emergency such that you're remote. Doing a mix of that is not really something the law tolerates at this point. We have individuals that are teleconferencing today, but they're teleconferencing using one of their two for the year. Everybody understand what they're doing? They're doing something different. You're talking about a situation where you could teleconference but be at home in the jurisdiction, because right now to teleconference in the way that I think Councilmember Cookley or Councilmember Morrig are doing, it either has to be based on health or it has to be because you're out of the jurisdiction. And those are available anytime. Forget about COVID. That's available anytime. I do know that I had some interaction. I believe Councilmember Morrig may have achieved this. There may be an interest by the General Assembly in looking at this when they reconvene, providing governments even more flexibility on how they can meet. I do have one government right now that does its regular meetings live, but does its work sessions by complete teleconference, so they do not physically assemble for their work sessions. Again, trying to lessen the need for physical interaction, in-person interaction, but understanding that regular meetings are where your public hearings occur, et cetera, and the citizens can come up and talk to you directly. So they've sort of done that approach, something you all could consider as well. So, Councilmember Bentley, I think it's a great issue, and it's something that COVID has certainly brought to light as maybe needs some more refinement. This has sort of been new to all of us. This year has been charting new ground on almost every parliamentary or procedural thing I've ever seen since I've been practicing. And maybe the General Assembly will give us some more flexibility in 2021.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, I'll open up for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt agenda item 20-201 as presented.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Moore with a second from Councilmember Longoria for approval. All in favor, please say aye.
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 That's unanimous. Okay. And if Tammy, if you would please sound the final business item, new business item.
Our final new business item is approval of a contract between the City of Milton and Croft and Associates PC for architectural design services for Fire Station number 42. Agenda item number 2190, Chief Egger.
Mayor, Council, before you tonight are two contract options for design services for Fire Station 42 from Croft and Associates. Those two options are a LEED certified building or a non-LEED certified building. The two contract options have a price tag of $213,600 for a LEED certified design or a non-LEED certified design, and the price tag of $175,900. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions for Chief on this? No, we discussed it. Okay. So I'll open up for a motion.
So are we looking to provide direction? Because it sounded like there was an
Either
option in
or.
the
I think your
discussion.
direction is you want a motion on either
Yeah, if you would
Lead or non-lead.
make a decision on which contract. They gave us two options. They gave us two contract options, one for the lead and one for the non-lead. So
Okay, so we can just, all right. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve agenda item number 20-201, choosing the option for a non-lead certified building.
Second?
Okay, I've got a motion for approval of the agenda item with a non-lead contract, for lack of better words. So I have a motion from Councilmember Longoria and a second from Councilmember Moore on that. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Chief. All right. We will move on to reports. I was going to go ahead and we had some public comment earlier on our Milton Country Club and the trails, specifically area number 5 or trail number 5. And based on some council input and questions and citizens' comments, and I know myself and probably some others have made personal visits out to the trail system and whatnot. I see some validity to some of the discussions. So just FYI, I met with Robert Drury and talked about, relooking at some options between that. I think it's a trail 1 and 3 or 3 and 5 or 1 and 3 or whatever, but it is in that section, and that he's going to have Sarah, when she gets back, look at some of the engineering and see if there's some movement that makes sense and is a win-win for the trail system and dollars and as well as any affected citizens there. So just again, he didn't have any specific answers, but they certainly are going to look at it and talk to the engineer and see what they can do, and obviously would bring that back to council to take a look at. And another thing, I know tonight we approved a retirement package for Jim Craig, and I just wanted to, I had a nice conversation with Jim the other day, but just to, publicly thank him for, and I did, but, and maybe we can do something later. I know it's a tough time, couldn't really have a going away party kind of thing or retirement party, but just, again, thanked him for, the heart and soul he'd put in, been here for quite a while and made a big impact on Milton and our park programs and whatnot. So certainly wish him well in his retirement. So, but and other than that, is there any other council reports before we move to staff reports? Okay, we'll move to staff reports. Parag?
Now we can hear. Okay. Mayor and the City Council members, just want to present a summary of the various projects going on in the department. Again, last month was a very busy month for the department in terms of the permit activity. Fortunately, we are not seeing any dip in the number of building permit applications received by the department because of this COVID-19. Last month, the department reviewed around 70 permit applications. This is up by more than 10 to 15% from last month. The total number of building permits issued were around 220. The building permit inspections were around 550, and the line development inspections were around 357. The number of tree removal permits almost remained the same. Last month it was around 45. This month it's around 47. Some other project updates. The department had a very successful pool permitting workshop on June 23rd. It was attended by almost 24 participants who were seated in a very socially distanced way. For the equestrian rural zoning update project, we had a very good presentation in front of the equestrian committee on July 15th last week, and we got some very good feedback from the members. And based on the feedback, we will be updating our equestrian update project. On August 5th, we have a virtual septic tank workshop in a collaboration with the city of Alpharetta and the city of Roswell. The Trail Master Plan project, we had a very good presentation in front of the City Council a few weeks back, and we will again be presenting this in front of the City Council on August 17th for a final vote and adoption. And as I mentioned previously, the tree conservation ordinance will be in front of the City Council on August 3rd. Some of the other meetings. Tomorrow, that's on July 21st, we have a BZA meeting. There are 2 items on the agenda. Nothing very controversial, pretty straightforward. On July 22nd, we have a Planning Commission meeting. And in the Planning Commission meeting, we have the fireworks stand text amendment on the agenda and 1 preliminary plat. The Design Review Board meeting is on August 4th. And the first CPAC meeting for the launch of the comprehensive plan is scheduled for the week of August 10th. The date has not been finalized yet, but it will be the week of August 10th. That's pretty much it from me. Any questions?
Okay, any questions for Brock? Laura?
Question on the DRB. Thank you for that addition to your report. Are we caught up in the DRB on demos? And
Yes.
I know there was a backlog, but it was because of COVID, but so we're caught up.
We are caught up. So again, in the July, the DRB met after 3 or 4 months. So there were 4 demos on the agenda. The DRB did approve 2 demos, and these 2 remaining demos, the applicants did not show up, and those items were deferred for the August 4th DRB meeting.
Okay. All right. That's good. Thank you.
Okay. Paul?
Parag, on your first slide, you were talking about the number of permits issued and for building and some of the other measures that you make. This one. What's with the impact of COVID? How has that affected the staff load? Are we current? Are we experiencing any delays? What's the status of the timeline for somebody processing a request for a permit?
Yes, so there was a backlog in the month of February and March, but now we are caught up. The timelines are basically, the first review generally goes out within 10 business days, and the second review goes out between 7 to 8 business days. There are some applications that require some special attention. Like today also you are on the agenda, there was one drainage easement under consent items, right? So that drainage easement was one of the plan reviews that we were conducting. So if some specific issue comes up, like today it came up for the drainage easement and it has to wait for the city council meeting, then there might be some delay for some specific case, but generally there's some reason why those applications are being held up. But to answer your question, Councilmember Moore, we are caught up.
Great.
We are still having this, we have to quarantine our drawings for 24 hours. So again, people just drop off all the drawings in the front lobby, and then we quarantine those drawings within 24 hours, but still we are caught up.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Parag.
Thank you.
Okay, our next is finance. So I started that. Okay, any questions for Bernadette? All right, thank you. Okay, at this point, we added to the agenda an executive session to discuss litigation, so I'll open up for a motion and a second to move into executive session for that purpose.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Longoria, second from Councilmember Bentley. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. from Councilmember Bentley to reconvene. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. And then I ask, I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous too. Sudie?
We're adjourned.
Rick? Sure.